Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 336, part one. We are going to be joined by some very special guests. One is a returning guest. The other is a first-timer. So we got Nate Hale with me. I'm Steve Crane. Bourbon and BS podcast. This is going to be an interesting one. I'm excited about what we have in front of us. You can see it there. I don't know how clear it is on your screen. I can see a 4 there. But excited to try it. I have not taken a sip. Have you? As he's swallowing the sip.
I'm on my second pour.
Wow. Good for you. Nice. That's going to be good. I'm going to throw up our sponsors here real quick here. Tinder Box at Easton in Columbus, Ohio. I want to thank them for the support. Tonight we've got a cigar from them that they carry. This is the CAO FASA Sombra. So we'll talk briefly about it tonight. We're going to be smoking that along with the featured bottle here tonight. Also want to thank Altadis USA. They're going to provide the second cigar this evening, which we will talk about in the second part as we talk about life. But great sponsor there with brands such as Monte Cristo, Romeo Julieta, H. Upman, and Aging Room, among others. We also want to thank the BS Cigar Company. We are going to be fully stocked on BS cigars, silver and gold. Gold's made by Plasencia, and silver is made by Espinosa. Fully stocked all the sizes by hopefully mid next week at Tinder Box at Easton. But you guys can find those there, and also just reach out and they can make sure to mail you guys some if you want to order some of the gold or silver online. Nate's also wearing one of the shirts you can find at buyjack.com/bourbonbs. That's one of the many. I've got a very old Smoking 10 event t-shirt, which is 12 years strong at Tinder Box at Easton. So yeah. Don't have any of the gear on tonight, but check out that website. And also thank you guys, obviously, for the support there. Patreon.com/BourbonBS podcast for the continued monthly support. You guys have been amazing. It helps us pay the bills to stream this and post it on the audio podcast sites that you guys love. So, or you can do Venmo at BourbonBS. Without further ado, I want to introduce our guest here. Returning guest twice.
We've had him twice on.
The third time we've got Greg Snyder with us this evening. Welcome back, Greg. How are you?
I'm doing great, guys. Thank you so much for having Rick and I on tonight, and was really looking forward to this. So thank you very much.
You're welcome, and happy to see you again. And you mentioned Rick. This is Rick Franco. Rick, how are you?
Doing good, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. We've got 4 Branches Bourbon, and was contacted thanks to Greg, I think, put you guys in touch with us for this bottle, and we love having you guys on here. All about the stories here. You guys already have, we want to know about 4 Branches Bourbon. We want to know what your involvement is, Rick. I know you're a co-owner of the brand, and there's a lot of history in this brand for you and the other co-owners. And then Greg, obviously, we want to hear what your involvement is, how you came in here, but some very cool things. You guys have great marketing. We appreciate you sending us, looks like a challenge coin. Is that what this is considered here?
That is.
That's awesome.
Let's see which one it is. Is it?
Oh, you have multiple. I think there's a
well, we do
on
one. We do one that comes out every year, right? So it's kind of a collectible. We don't. Every year is a unique design that we come up with.
All right. So this is on the front. I assume it's the front. Serve honorably. Has the logo there, and drink honorably. I don't know if you can kind of see that.
Okay. I know which one you have. Yeah.
All right.
That's for this year.
That's for this year. So on the back it says "Sip to remember in honor of 250 years of service and sacrifices, 1775 to 2025."
All right. So
obviously very fitting to have you guys on this week.
Yep. We're going to talk about that as it leads into something later, kind of teach you guys what that coin represents.
Love that. So I say let's dive in here. What is 4 Branches Bourbon all about? And I'm going to take my first sip as Rick, if you want to kind of introduce the product and the brand.
Absolutely. So for everybody out there in internet land, podcast land, I'm Rick Franco. I'm the, I guess I'd be called the founding co-founder. There's 4 of us. We don't call ourselves owners. We call ourselves co-founders.
Got it.
4 Branches Bourbon is we're, as far as we know, we are the only spirits company, definitely in America, founded by 4 veterans from 4 different branches, we're probably the only company in the world founded by 4 veterans from 4 different branches of the military, right? Yes, there are 5 or 6. We can have that debate later. But my co-founders and I, we all came from the Army, Air Force, Navy, and Marines. Just happened to be the branches that we were serving in. I started, let me back up. 4 branches goes back 20 years, almost 25 years, the beginning of this brand. So I was an enlisted Marine, and then I went to school at Virginia Military Institute. I became a commissioned infantry officer. While at Virginia Military Institute, I was there with a good buddy of mine, another friend. You make friends when you go to schools like that. Greg Wright Jr. So Greg and I were buddies at VMI, and then commissioned, and then we were stationed together at Camp Lejeune, running around, like I tell people, doing dumb second lieutenant shit. I finished my 2 tours, and I got out, and I got recruited into the CIA as a contractor. And then I recruited Greg thereafter. 20 years ago this year, I recruited Greg into the agency, into a particular program and unit that we were a part of. And then, then Greg went out on his first mission 20 years ago, saved everyone's life. Definition of a hero, but Greg didn't come home that night. And then I flew across the pond to bring him back to his mom and dad, him and 11 other American warriors draping flags, and answered for a classified mission, parents, friends, family, all that good stuff. Greg was then summarily given a star at the wall at Langley at CIA headquarters, which was a very big deal back then, guys, because we were contractors. We weren't big green, meaning we didn't work for the military, and we weren't big black. We weren't government employees. We were the gray men. So he was given a star at that wall, and then since that time, there have been 5 more stars on that wall. Men that I have either worked with or had the honor to know their reputation from our particular unit. So now let's fast forward. I guess I'm a Marine, so my math is going to be fuzzy. Let's fast forward 18 years, right? We go 18 years, 17, 18 years. I'm driving home. I still have a day job, guys. I'm driving home, and it sounds corny. I tell people it may sound corny, but sometimes you hear voices in your head. And most of the time, I'm going to tell you, if you hear a voice, run the other way. Don't listen to it. It's not good. Every now and then, one will ring true. And this is this driving home is like, do a barrel of bourbon for the guys in the unit, right? Honor what we have now called the unsung shadows. So it's a very deep backstory to 4 branches. And I thought, oh, that's super simple. I'll buy a barrel of bourbon. Can't be that hard. I'll look on the internet, buy bourbon. I can get some glass bottles somewhere, and I got a printer. I can print some labels out.
Love it.
I stick it on the bottle. I'll sell that shit on Facebook, and you know what? All the guys will buy it. Apparently, Uncle Sam will not let you sell bourbon on Facebook.
There are laws.
That's a public safety announcement for everybody out there that thinks they got a great idea with that.
Don't do it.
Yeah, don't do it. So what that led me to do is that led me to call my good friend and co-founder, Mike Trott, who's our Air Force component. He and Mike and I had been in the same unit at the CIA. He was a CIA officer. I was a contractor, although we were at different times. I was actually stationed with his son on a undisclosed location overseas, and we had actually served together. But Mike and I had crossed paths in the business world also. So we start having this conversation, and then the light bulbs go off, and like, you know what? Everybody needs a Navy SEAL these days. Let's call Harold. So Harold is not just any Navy SEAL, and I've worked with a ton, and I love those guys. But Harold's a retired Command Master Chief, 33 years in the teams. I believe, don't quote me, at least 8 or more in development group. That's the number that falls between 4 or 5 and 7 in the teams, right? So I told you, Marine, trying to figure out my math.
You're getting there. You're doing great.
Yeah, we're getting there. So then that led to the 3 of us were discussing, and the light bulb kind of goes off again. It's like, wait a minute, we got an Air Force guy, got a Marine, we got a Navy guy. If we get one more, we could actually have an Army guy. And so through a mutual friend of ours, he's like, hey, you have to call RJ Casey. and talk to. He would be the perfect guy to be in. So I always tell people at tastings, RJ, love joking with him. He's our underachiever because he started as a Green Beret, and then at 39, he took the Air Force Pararescue Selection Test, which is like going to Navy SEAL BUDS training at 39. He holds the record in the Air Force for being the oldest guy ever to pass it to this day. So, the underachiever is obviously an inside joke, and we use him for his Green Beret time because he just couldn't get enough of it. So that's kind of how the team assembled. And then we didn't know anything about the bourbon industry at all. We knew we liked whiskey and scotch and bourbon, and I grew up in a scotch family. So when the voice of doing a bourbon barrel, I just listened to it. It's like, well, all right, let me move down this road. But then, and it originally started out as, hey, a 1-unit, honor Greg and the men on the wall. But then we took a step back and we said, well, let's think bigger than this. But also, we had what I'll call a crisis of conscience for a minute, because we had lost some friends that year to suicide. And we just didn't know, did we want to be a part of an industry that has a part to play in men and women, whether military, veteran, first responder, anybody, making a really one-time fatal decision. We didn't know if we wanted to do that. So we pumped the brakes for about 90 days, and then we thought about it. And we said, you know what? Our careers have never been typical. We've never backed down from a fight. Let's not be a part of the problem. Let's create a new narrative and try to become part of the solution, a new solution, which as far as we know, we're the only ones doing it. Right. And so that narrative and that solution is everybody serves something, whether you served in the military, law enforcement or not, it doesn't matter. You two gentlemen are serving the community. Men and women every day serve something. They serve a community. So we say serve honorably. It's on the back of that bottle, on the back label. Then we say, if you drink, I say if you drink, because if you don't drink, don't start. If you're sober, stay sober, guys. You still have a seat at our campfire by all means, but drink honorably. And that drink honorably is not drink responsibly. That's a different message, right? Drink responsibly has its place and it's very important. So, let that message stand alone. But our drink honorably, what we intend it to mean is that if you are the last one to come home from downrange, firefighter out the burning house, cop from the last call, soldier, sailor, airman, Coast Guard, Space Force guy, whatever it may be, right? I'm including everybody. If you're the last one to come home, don't dishonor the memories of the men and women that didn't make it home. We were lucky. We came home. But more importantly, please don't dishonor your own memory by doing something stupid. We see the numbers 22 a day, right? And that led us into, so we hope that message makes them pause for a minute and say, well, maybe I don't need to go down that road. Maybe I need to live my best life because Jimmy, Johnny, Sally, they're not here.
Mm-hmm.
And lastly, the soul of the company is that we don't drink to forget because we've been there. Rather, we sip to remember. And that is what Four Branches is about. We're a give back brand. We're supporting a lot of communities. And the sip to remember is not just what I say the Gregs in our life. It's, hey, you know what? You're getting married in a couple of weeks. There should be a sip to remember for that. If a graduation, a promotion, a retirement, look, you name it. You pick that moment, guys, right? The kid catches his first home run. The daughter does her first dance recital. That's what this is for. That's why we created this.
I like that.
That looks like that's Greg calling me.
All right, we'll figure. Yeah.
Yep. Shall we pause me or let me hang on? Let me see if I can get him.
We're pretty informal
Greg.
here.
No, I'm continuing on.
He can't get on, huh?
Whatever.
You might need to let him back in. Is he on there?
He's not backstage. If he wants to hit the
He's got to hit the
link again, maybe refresh his.
Try hitting the link again. Try it like back all the way out of your browser. Get back in. Hit the link.
Yeah, that's a great thing about Bourbon BS podcast. You know,
see if you can get in.
We're live, and IT is always fun.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah. Well, that's the.
Yeah, I don't see him like backstage, if you will.
Okay. All right. Look. Do you see him now?
I don't.
No, wait a
Yes.
minute. Okay.
Yep,
He's
there he
popping
is.
up.
All right. Here we go.
And if only we were really paused, everyone's listened to that entire thing. So, guys, this is live television for you.
It doesn't get any more action packed than that, guys. Greg Snyder trying
And
to make
it's a
his
bunch of
appearance back
middle-aged
in.
men trying to figure out technology.
Yeah,
as
I'm
well.
sorry, man. I'm the biggest low-tech redneck on the earth. So,
But you know what, Greg? We covered everything.
Good
Just
deal.
pour yourself a sip and have a pour.
Okay. Cheers, guys. Yeah.
Cheers there.
So, guys, getting back into it. So, you pick those moments, and then what that's led us to become is that the four of us, myself, Mike, Harold, and RJ, we're a brand that happens to have a bourbon to have good conversations, both fun conversations and hard conversations. And I think that's what's resonating out there with the public. And we chose bourbon. I get asked a lot of times, why bourbon? Well, one, the voice in my head said choose a barrel bourbon. But two, I couldn't see having this conversation with the four of us, or if I'm sitting around a campfire drinking a clear spirit, whatever that spirit may be. Just It doesn't go, right? No disrespect to gin, but I'm not going to sit down around the campfire and have a glass of gin straight up with you and tell sea stories and fish stories and war stories.
Yeah, it doesn't really happen much, I don't think.
No.
Not
so that's us.
Choice. Okay.
They may sit around an incense candle with gin, but not a fire.
Well, let's kind of dive a little bit further and see where also this Greg, where he entered the picture. But with your obviously clear math and clear timeline there, what year did you actually launch this product?
So I can get straight. We launched this product April 2 years ago.
Okay.
We did our launch. We did our launch party, and we were direct to consumer 2 years ago in May. We were on the shelves for July. We started in 4 states 2 years ago. So we launched in Tennessee first, Kentucky, Florida, and Arizona. Now we've run really fast. We're in 7 markets, traditional markets, and that's Maryland, DC, Virginia, Florida, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Arizona, and then 39 states online. I'm going to let Greg, when he's ready, to talk about the uniqueness of the mash bill.
Well, so that's what I want to ask. When 2 years ago this product came out, actually, Greg, when did you join with them?
I actually joined them last month.
Okay, so recent. So you weren't a part of this original product.
No, and it's well, Jake and I were talking about it a little bit earlier. It's amazing how the bourbon market has evolved. Okay, I distinctly remember 10 years ago, 10 years ago anyway. I was talking with Steve Thompson. You guys ever hear of Steve Thompson? Steve was one of the co-founders of Kentucky Artisan Distillery. And Steve was my boss at Brown-Forman. When I worked 12 years at Brown-Forman, Steve was the president of the Brown-Forman Beverage Company. But a brilliant guy. And when he was running Kentucky Artisan, I went by, see him one day, and we were having a conversation. He says, where's this going to go? He says, all these distilleries are growing and expanding and spending tons of money to make more whiskey. And he says, when you look at the production volume, it far exceeds any sales forecast, any sales expectations, exponentially. So it's got to hit a wall at some point. So when's that going to happen? Well, again, that was probably 8-10 years ago. And unfortunately, since then, Steve has passed away, and a great mentor and a guy I'll always remember and respect in my lifetime. But he was right, and we've come to fruition. I think that the whiskey demand, there's still bourbon lovers out there. The demand's still there. It's just that the production has far exceeded what the sales forecasts were ever intended to be, and so that kind of shifts the pendulum as far as business strategies for young companies starting out, and even other companies. Do you spend the money and lay down your own whiskey at a distillery, or do you look at the good quality whiskey out there that's at a very reasonable price now and acquire that whiskey to build your brand? And so, it really adds a whole different dynamic to business strategy. And so, that's where these guys have kind of evolved to, and so what we're looking at, there's such a great supply of great bourbon whiskey. And so that's kind of where I came in the fold. They asked me to come join them. And again, I'm truly privileged and very honored to work with these American heroes. And I truly believe in their history and their story and their mission. And so I'm very thankful to be a part of it and what they're trying to accomplish with their brand. So
I was going to ask, how did you hook up with them?
Well, again, I've been in this business 47 years, guys.
Right.
And,
right.
Hopefully I haven't burned too many bridges, but during that time frame, I've made a pretty good name for myself and worked hard at a lot of different companies, a lot of different capacities, and made a lot of friends throughout the world. And at the end of the year, as you guys know, I was a master distiller for Chicken Cock. I helped resurrect that brand and bring it back to its high quality prominence the brand was known for many years ago. But my contract expired at the end of 2024. And as things worked out, it just didn't make sense to continue on with them. And so I started looking at other opportunities. And at Bardstown Bourbon Company, I've always said, tastings I do throughout the country, dinners I've done, I'm so impressed with that company. You guys have been to Bardstown Bourbon Company?
We have not been, but we've been to tastings and
okay, you have got to go.
You got to go.
You really have to go there.
State of the art from everything we hear and see.
Beautiful facility. They have truly assembled the best team in the industry. And I've worked for a lot of different companies, but they got the best team in the industry, and they're making some phenomenal whiskey. And so, I've been working with them since they broke ground. Basically, when I was vice president of operations for Western Spirits, I reached out to Steve Nally, who's their master distiller. I've known Steve for over 40 years, and he introduced me to their top management team. And so we started making whiskey for Western Spirits, which, again, you guys, I know you know it. It's Calumet Farm Bourbon, Bird Dog Whiskeys, that company. But then when I helped Chicken Cock, in Grain and Barrel Spirits, they were the first ones I contacted. And so, long story short, Mark Irwin, who's the CEO of Bardstown Bourbon Company and Green River, it's called Lofted Spirits now, I believe is the name of the corporation. Yeah. But Mark had lunch with him one day, and he says, there's some people I'd like you to meet. I think you might be able to help them. And so that's kind of how it evolved. Mark's got a military background as well. And
a very impressive military background.
Absolutely. And he's very fond of Rick and his co-founders. And so that's kind of how I got involved with it.
Yeah. Going a couple of things on that, Greg, and everybody, is that when we first created Founders Blend, right, we settled on Bardstown Bourbon Company. The four of us didn't really know what we were going to do. We knew we needed to create a bourbon. Told you we knew the message that we needed to put out there. So we went to the lab up there, and we're all up there, and Travis is there, and Dan, and they've got samples out. We're trying to figure out, because imagine taking four people trying to get a degree on anything, right? That's a tough one, especially with four guys, A-type personalities, trying to figure out what do we like, what's this and that. And so they're running us through the ringer of questions, and like, all right, this and that. And they're like, hey guys, Steve Nally's going to come up. And we're at the time, this shows you how ignorant we were. Like, Steve who?
Yeah.
And like, yeah, okay, whatever. He's like, well, Steve's a master distiller. He comes and he says hello to all the clients. And we're like, fine. We had, we think we're big time because we got our social media camera people there and everything. And we're trying to figure it out, capture content. And I don't know, we must have been screwing around. I was probably giving Harold a bunch of shit or something like that. And he walks in, he's like, who are you guys? And so we tell him who we are and what we're doing. And it's really cool because it's on camera. He looks at the assistant with him, is like, clear the schedule. He looks at us, he rolls his he wears a button down white shirt. He rolls his sleeves up and he goes, boys, let's make some bourbon. So
it's just a cool
2 hours.
Right there. It's just nice.
Yeah. I mean, to have a master distiller, we're nobody, right? We're just 4 guys to come in and, you spent 2 hours in there. Greg, you'll appreciate this story. 2 hours. They had to go get samples and get this. And they come up with about this much in a little thimble. And we're all on the line. It's Harold, myself, Mike, and RJ. Other side of the table, Steve. He's kind of got this smile on his face because he thinks, all right, this is it. Travis, they hand the thimble to Harold. Harold looks at it. We're looking at Harold. We're all in line. I'm trying to paint this picture for you.
Oh, no.
He looks at it, he smells it, and he just shoots it.
Yep. Saw it coming. Saw it coming.
We were like,
Saw it.
and he looked at us. He's like, guys, that's amazing. That's really good. Steve's eyes got the size of saucer plates. Travis' jaw dropped on the floor because he spent 2 hours creating this stuff, percentages and pipettes and everything. And
hopefully wrote it down.
We look at Travis. I mean, we look at Harold and go, I don't know, man. We wouldn't know. He's like, oh, that was for you guys. So we've got this shirt we're coming out that's called Damn It, Harold.
Love it. I love it.
So, but we were really honored and blessed to have Steve kind of put his thumbprint and his nod of approval. But then one thing we're good at is that we, as 4 guys from either the special operations community or the intelligence operations community, we're good at knowing what we don't know and finding the experts. So when Mark Irwin, we knew that we needed to find somebody. I mean, thank goodness I got a decent palate, but I'm learning. But we knew we needed somebody to take us to that next level. And when Mark Irwin, the CEO of, I guess, Lofted Spirits, Bartown, BBC, and Green River came to us and said, hey, I got the guy. We listened. Mark's a former Delta colonel. So kind of got it makes sense to be there with him. Mm-hmm. We get him, he gets us from our backgrounds. And when he says, I got the guy, we listened and we met Greg. And I tell you, Greg, I'm honored that you're with us. I couldn't be happier. We've probably hung out together more than the other guys have. Yeah. And it's one, this should be a fun industry, and it's fun when I'm with you. And I learn. I'm like a sponge. I'm picking stuff up off of him all the time. So we are really blessed and lucky to have Greg on the team.
Thank you.
It's amazing too, though. I mean, the pairing up of the 4 of you and Greg, right? I mean, you described it briefly a little bit, the resume of the 4, you and the other 3. Yeah. You have the resume in this industry with Greg, and it's like it just kind of matches in a lot of ways, in my opinion, which is really cool to see. It's kind of like you've got all this experience in your respective fields, right? And then you're like, well, we want to do this now. It's like, where do you go, except for someone has a resume in a different arena, but that would match up in a sense.
Exactly.
Exactly. Super cool and very fitting, which I mean, like, to have that just kind of happen is extremely special.
It is. I tell you, I mean, we're really lucky guys that I keep telling myself every day, the things that have happened for 4 Branches Bourbon just doesn't happen every day. Right. And so that is a constant sign from the big guy upstairs that, hey, we're on the right track. We're doing the right things. I'll give you a couple examples. I mean, we launched in April, May, June 7th, we were on Fox 2 years ago for National Bourbon Day Live. That doesn't happen to anybody.
Wow.
We out of the blue, right? And that launched us. And then last year, the Today Show for Veterans Day at Bardstown.
Really?
So it's these things that keep happening. The message I told you of serve honorably, drink honorably, sip to remember. That message has resonated so loud that we give away a lot of these bottles up here, right?
Mhm.
The different organizations will say, "Hey, guys, Four Branches, would you donate a bottle to our fundraiser or this auction?" And we never saw this coming. This was not part of the plan, but we're honored and blessed by it beyond belief. Is that in 2 years, those bottles have over $450,000.
Holy shit.
Damn.
Yeah, we had in
Jesus.
November of 23, it's 25, November of 23, we're at a private event in Washington, D.C. It's a special operations and kind of intelligence community event, big concert. We signed 4 bottles, and they had the former director of the agency, George Tennant, signed one side. Train, the lead singer from Train, signed the other. It was a concert. Those bottles, 4 bottles, we're brand new, less than 4 months old. They auctioned off for $66,000.
No one even tried your stuff yet.
No one's even. Yeah, exactly. No one's even tried
a bottle at this point. You're like, yeah, sure, let's do it.
Yeah.
I love it.
So we have truly been blessed and honored by that. And you know what? And I'll throw it back to you guys. And we got, I know Greg's got alligator skin, and so do I. What's your impression of the bourbon? It is a 4-grain, and Greg, you can talk about the 4 grains and the percentages, but love to think what you think of the pours that you're having. Jake, I know you're on your like 3rd or 4th pour, so it's
Nate.
probably pretty good. No, Nate, sorry.
Yeah.
Jake.
Do you want to go first?
Sure.
Since you're 3 in?
No, I'm still on 2.
All right.
I'm still on 2. You're on 2 as well.
I'm more recently, yeah.
I've been slow rolling the second one.
That's all good.
No, the thing that I really like, this is very well balanced. Like there's not necessarily one grain that's trying to outshine. Like sometimes you get those high rye mash bills and you just get a lot of that spice from the rye, or you get the wheaters where they just taste super sweet, or even some of those, high 75, 80% corns that taste super sweet. No, this one, it's got some really good flavor to it, but it's very soft. It's very easygoing. Like this is something that you could just sit there and drink all day and never get tired of it.
You'd get tired though.
After about 10 hours, yeah, you would get tired.
As you crack the second, third-ish bottle. I'm kind of right with Nate. Off the rip, first sip, it had a little bit of a punch to it. I feel like, it had a little spice to it, but it also still had a little bit of the floral side of it. I like the balance. I am on my second pour here, and it's extremely balanced to a point. I know we overuse that word sometimes, but it's got a lot of flavor. I am getting, and again, I don't know if it's the change in the weather or whatever it is, but I'm getting more of a kind of a grain spice, a little breadiness. I'm getting some classic flavors, but I'm at the same time, I'm not getting as many. Like with bourbon, sometimes I think some of the most popular ones are going to be the heavy vanilla, the heavy, the oakiness. I get some oakiness from it, but it's not going to be the vanilla or the butterscotch or the molasses. None of that stuff. I'm getting more like the kind of like that, the raw. I keep going back to the spice, and I'm trying to place that spice. And I don't know, Greg, if you can help me out on that. But
it's amazing because
very easy sipper, which is always nice because sorry to cut you off, Greg, but a lot of the times we're finding, I think, with people that are either sourcing or come out with their own stuff, they almost are trying to, when you say it's unique, it's not always a good unique. So with this one, it's not super unique as far as like you guys try to do something completely different than what it says on the bottle, which is bourbon. So I kind of like that. It's just different enough that it's unique.
Yeah. So again, my involvement is kind of a initiation of an evolution. Okay. Um, Rick and his co-founders, they worked to come up with 4 blends, basically 4 batches, prior to my involvement. And it's hard when you're on the spot market and you've got reasonably priced, good quality whiskey to come up with a mixture. We say blend. I don't like using that word blend because so many people think blended whiskey. It's not blended, it's blend of bourbons. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so when you put those together and you try to get consistency from profile to profile, it can be extremely difficult. So one of the things that too. And so one of the things I'm trying to bring to the party is that, and we did some tastings last month, that we can find a good quality, high quality 4-grain bourbon that will give us that high quality consistency day in and day out for years to come. In other words, we're able to secure an inventory of the same bourbon that will and have a sustainable supply to carry us through years going forward. And so I think we've accomplished that. That'll probably come out, and correct me if I'm wrong, Rick, probably next year in 2026. Yeah. In the meantime, we're working on some LTO, some limited time offerings as well. Mm-hmm. Some very special products that we've come across, and thanks to the innovation and ingenuity of Rick and his team, they've come up with some great ideas. And so we've got some things in the work, which I think the bourbon industry, the bourbon consumers are just going to absolutely love.
Yeah, I think in this day and age, you guys kind of started alluding to it, especially you, Greg, with the scaling of some of these companies and what they were trying to reach as far as what was driving the bourbon market. You see that from my vantage point, like the parameters have changed drastically in the last 18 months or so. Yeah. For us, especially in the state of Ohio, being a state-run liquor agency where you regulate the prices, the secondary market has driven the bourbon industry almost awry in a sense, no pun intended. But it's one of those things that I feel like the direction of it, and we saw it in the cigar side of things as well, where you had a big boom in the last 2020, 2021 into 22, where people were staying at home and doing all that stuff. They're very, very large parallels between the two of them, but it's interesting to see you guys really diving in from a true story, because we've all seen those other bottles out there where you read the story on the back of the label and then you start looking into it and like, that creek doesn't even exist that they're talking about. You know what I mean? It's one of those things that it's just complete bullshit on the back of the bottle. And this one,
we've had some. Yeah,
we've had some of those. That's what I'm saying. Like,
where it's like, oh yeah, it's from this brand that had this distillery, and then you look it up, and it's like that distillery doesn't exist anymore. They're just using the name, and it's actually coming out of California and
something like that. Yeah.
So what we're striving for, and Nate hit it on the head earlier, the balance. Again, that term is used somewhat loosely, but the 4-grain bourbon, and I give Rick and his co-founders 4 branches. Okay. Yeah. And so that's one of the reasons that they decided upon on the 4-grain.
Yeah.
And there are some fantastic 4 grains out there. And I think we've hit upon one that I think the true bourbon lover, the true consumer is going to absolutely enjoy. It's got that balance. It's got the spiciness of the rye. It's got the sweetness of the wheat, the caramel, the oak. I mean, it's such
it has it all.
Yeah. It's a great complexity. And again, it's not, one is not overriding the other. It's phenomenal. So I'm excited about the offerings we've got coming up down the road here. And again, so proud to be a part of this team.
Well, that's one of the other thing I like about, the types of barrels that you're putting into this, because, there's a lot of consumers out there. I wouldn't say it's majority, but there's a vocal enough part of the consumers out there that want these higher age stated products. And you have some of those, and like oak just becomes the dominant flavor. and I've had some of those, and it just tastes like you're drinking toothpicks. And I'm sitting there going, I don't like this bottle, but yet it's a bottle that people will pay $2,000 on the secondary market for. I'm like, you're idiots. But then, you know, you have the ones that try and be too different and too unique and just completely miss a giant portion of the market and the consumer market. So like
you make a bourbon that doesn't taste like bourbon at all.
Yeah.
What's the point?
Yeah. But no, I mean, this one, that vanilla's there, but it's not overwhelming. It's not overpowering. I get a lot more vanilla, but then the sweetness is more like a really soft honey. It's not that it's not that heavy caramel. And there are guys out there that chase that caramel, that oak flavor, and I'm like, yeah, if you want to blow out your palate and not taste anything else the rest of the day, sure. Same thing with the guys that that chase proof. Yep, you can sit on 100, you can drink 125 proof for about the next 3 hours, and then after that you're done. This something because of the mash bill you're using, the age combination, but then coming in at 96 proof, it's you're not watering it down to 80. You're keeping some of the body. You're not diluting the flavor too much. And it kind of goes back to the very first time we ever had Greg on. You're trying to find that sweet spot for that blend.
That's right.
Yes, those cast strengths are very rich, robust. They just coat your palate. Sometimes they can be a little overwhelming. And then you have the 80 proof ones where you're like, this just tastes like flavored water. And then it's like, where do you find the balance? And so that's why I think cool about this being a 96 proof is you're trying to keep some of that rich, robust flavor, but you're also trying to make it more bottles available to people. You don't want to dilute it
without over diluting the taste profile. Absolutely. Absolutely.
No,
Thank you. Yeah.
I like on this. I was chuckling looking down at this because I hadn't read the entire the card you guys sent, basically, which is a lot of the notes and everything like that is the quote Kentucky kiss.
So we coined that phrase, or we know
if you say that, I feel like it's almost derogatory towards Kentuckians, but
no. But let me tell you the logic behind it. Right, Kentucky hug is the industry standard. Right? No, is that true? That's what you're saying. But I tell people, especially when I do tastings, is that it depends on who I'm telling. Right? Let's go there. I'd rather get a kiss than a hug, as long as it's good.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, pal. I'm just going to hug you.
Well, I say it depends on who I'm telling. Yeah, right. It depends on who I'm tasting. You're getting a Kentucky
I'll
handshake.
settle for a fist bump.
That's all you're getting. That's all you're getting. I did want to kind of take a step back. You talked about how every aspect of this kind of came together, but can you take us through kind of I don't want to say a working day, but with like you said, you almost got 4 alphas in a sense, or A-type personalities. Now you involve Greg here, another Greg. So what does it look like as far as the working relationships when you have 4, in a sense, co-owners, and now you have, like talked about, a master distiller with a resume a mile long? Like sitting around, like you did tell a story about like the initial time down Barstown. So like, what does it look like today when you guys are working on these, the limited time offerings, the next products? I know you have one, and I don't want to like really, I'm not just supposed to tease a little bit, but you've got the Continental coming out. Like, what does it look like as far as you guys? Obviously you're close, you've probably gotten closer, even more working on this from a business aspect, but that's got to be tricky at times. Because working with friends, it's always tough. They say working with family is tough. Yeah. But with you guys, with your backgrounds and everything else, where you're kind of the elite in a lot of ways, and you're in an industry now that you're the new guys, and you're all trying to kind of have a voice heard, but at the same time respected. I'm curious how that looks.
So kind of going back to what I said, we knew what we didn't. We know to a degree what we didn't know, what we don't know, but we knew we had to find industry experts. So like Greg is on the team before, and Greg, you're probably familiar with some of our advisors, Johnny and Tim and Nick. Yeah. So we have been very fortunate that we've surrounded ourselves with industry experts. We have kind of an advisory panel. All they probably have over 100+ years combined experience at the leadership of Brown-Forman.
Yeah, different disciplines. Yeah,
different disciplines. So a CFO, our national sales director, and now our chief marketing officer, it's the same person. He started Woodford Reserve and launched Woodford and grew Woodford. And then our senior advisor, Johnny, he retired as one of the top guys at Brown-Forman. So they're kind of our rails to keep us not going, no, we're not adding, rice and having a 5th grain bourbon and a sake combination or some weird crap like that. Right. So they keep us between the running rails. As far as actually like the dynamic. So we knew we had to have at least one person right now drive the plane, fly the plane. So that's Mike. He's our managing principal because he retired. I still got a day job. Harold's retired, and RJ is still working in the military on occasion. So we elected Mike. But then it's funny you say working with family is tough. My wife is a director of operations. And she actually, thank goodness she's on board because she keeps the 4 of us from getting too distracted by, oh, that's shiny. Let's go over here and do this. No. Let's come back here and, no squirrels. Let's get on task. So we've assembled a really good team, and it's all about communication, right? We may be 4 alphas that have ideas, but when we have an issue or, we have a great idea that we think is a good idea, we bring it to the team. And we trust our industry experts. We trust Greg. We trust the other team members to say, hey, let's balance it out. All right, that's a go or that's a no-go. If it's a no-go, then we drive on, move on to the next thing. It's a discipline of having the military in us that helps us actually navigate perhaps those dynamics that if we hadn't had that discipline, it might be a different story.
Well, it sounds like when you're all in, obviously you guys go all in. This is a project that is very apparent.
I didn't start this thing to lose. Right. Just like that's not our careers. None of our backgrounds are that. And it's more than just brown water in the bottle for me personally, and for the rest of the team. It was like that's we lived what's in that bottle, right? We live those stories, and that's what's important, and that's what we want to share. And it's not Fort Branches is never intended to be about Rick, Mike, Harold, and RJ. It's about the men and women out there that serve our country, the patriots that serve our country. That's their bourbon, right? That's what we want it to be. At the end of the day, this is where we want it to end up. So 20 years from now, 50 years from now, when I'm not here, PFC Banat walks into the bar and says, I want my 4 branches.
Yeah. Pour
me a pour. Right. That's what it's about for us. That's our vision. That's my vision.
I love that. It's really powerful.
Yeah. Thank you. I mean, we mean it, right? I mean, we're obviously, you can see the passion in our voices and what we're about, and that's not just me, but you ask Harold and Mike and RJ, you'll get the same answer.
So we talked about the Continental, is that right? Coming out at some point?
Yeah. So we'll tease a little bit of that.
That's an LTO, right?
Yeah. Greg, you want to tease a little bit of that? I mean,
I wish I could unveil it tonight, but we've got certain disciplinary.
I've said too much.
We have to follow.
Did you send people to the house?
When it's
right now.
Yeah, but when it's unveiled in June, But I'm going to give you my lowdown on it. It's in my top 10 best bourbons of all time. And I've been in this business 47 years. I've made a lot of great whiskey.
It's a strong statement.
And it truly is in my top 10, guys. It is phenomenal. Yeah. So I'm excited about it. We actually, Rick and I were in Bardstown yesterday bottling it. And of course, we always do a pre-bottling sampling, 102 proof, and it is phenomenal. So
it is.
That's about as much as I can tell you at this point. So,
but we can tell you why we created it, right? It's kind of per that coin, the challenge coin you got. 250 years comes once in a lifetime, right? And so this year is the 250th anniversary of the Army, which was founded June 14th, 1775. The Navy, October 12th, 1775. And maybe in the Marine, 10 November, 1775. So those three branches of the service are having their celebration this year.
I didn't really. That is something that I feel like was, maybe I wasn't paying attention. It wasn't covered as much this Memorial Day either.
Yeah, well, it was Continental Army, Continental Navy, and Continental Marines back then. So, so that's why it's called Continental. So,
I love that. Yeah, that's awesome. Beautiful challenge coin too.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got the LTOs. You talked about a new regular production as well coming out, right, Greg?
Yeah, actually, we the team members, founders that I met.
This, or is that's in addition to?
No. That's coming up probably next year in 2026, I believe, Rick. Right?
That's right, and we view that more as the evolution, right? As a company evolves and spirit, the brand evolves. We knew, goes back to what Greg was saying, to be sustainable, right, and scalable.
Sure.
We got it. We settled on something that is, I think it's absolutely fantastic
and high quality. I guarantee.
And high quality, good age statement, high quality. Founders Blend will evolve. Replace. Probably it will replace. It won't be an addition. It will replace.
Okay. So this bottle of what we're looking at is going to evolve into your actual core product, everyday release.
That's right.
Right.
Okay. Yep. So those will eventually this year become collector's items. You won't find those anymore.
We already opened it.
we know a guy who can get you another one.
Yeah. On that case.
What is this? What does this product that we're drinking right now, the Founders Blend, what does that normally run MSRP? I know you said you're only in 7 markets. Like, what does that typically?
But they can ship to what, 39 states, I believe.
39 states we can ship to. Right. So MSRP, if you walk, and that's a little bit of a loaded question because it depends on where you walk into.
Yes.
Right. Well, a control state, a non-control state. So I'll speak for Tennessee here. Right. So Tennessee and Florida are in the same pricing structure, roughly. That bottle runs roughly about $74.
Okay.
Right. And so you got a decent age statement. Yeah, actually, I think it's a respectable age statement in there. You're averaging 6 years in the bottle between the two bourbons.
Well, anymore, I mean, average price is still rising.
Yeah,
still rising. 75. That's I think that's respectable. Like, you know what I mean? Like with everything involved there.
We wanted, look, we think, one, obviously, because we were sourcing our barrels, there's a whole economic component to it.
Sure.
But the second thing is we want it to be in that premium category. We believe first responders, veterans, active deserve a high quality product, right? I could put, monkey piss in it and you'd buy it once because you'd feel like, oh, I'm buying it for the veterans.
Yeah,
and I wouldn't be involved in that point. So.
You would spit it out and it would be on the shelf once and that was it, right? Like worst tasting stuff ever, drinking toothpicks. And we said, we can't do that. And here's why. One, the only thing I think that we have in this world at the end of the day is your name. You're as good as your word. You're as good as your name. So it had to be worthy of our names. But more importantly than that, it had to be worthy of the names that then come back.
Right.
So we wanted to make sure that we put true quality in every bottle so that if someone is sipping to remember a fallen one, loved one, or sipping to remember someone coming home from a deployment, that it was quality, it was worth it. They wanted to sit down, father, daughter, father, son, mother, whatever it may be, and have that pour with their loved ones, right? So it had to be good, and to Greg's point, if it wasn't good, we wouldn't have a 47-year industry master distiller on the team. He'd been like, guys, thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all lined up accordingly, right?
Yeah.
Briefly, I do want to comment on the cigar here. Okay, so this is part of the show, right? Part of part one here. Wish you guys were here smoking with us. Obviously, this is something new here, so I want to make sure I get all this correct. So, Are you guys cigar smokers, Greg? I know we've talked about this in the past.
Yeah.
Are
Yeah.
you guys familiar with CAO as a brand?
I have not heard of them.
Okay. CAO has been around for a while now. It actually was a family brand, and then it was sold off to General Cigars, and they have went through an evolution, basically. So it was originally owned by the Osgener family. That's what the O stands for. And then General bought it. Then they put someone in charge of the brand as a brand ambassador or master blender, with Ricky Rodriguez. He's been on the show several times. Ricky has now left. He started his own company, West Tampa Tobacco. And for those that are in the Columbus area, Ricky's going to be at the Tinder Box at Easton tomorrow night for a cut and light, hang out, stories for days. He great dude.
And when the Osgeners originally owned it, it was headquartered in Nashville, Tennessee.
That's right.
Oh, wow.
That's right. So this is part of their FASA line that we've featured the other ones on here, the Sombra, or this is Sombra, the Noche and the Soul.
Yep.
This is more of a lighter shade, so it's on the milder side. Are you familiar with this blend?
This is the first time I've smoked it.
What do you think of it?
This is that like first cigar of the day, cup of coffee cigar, like earlier in the morning type cigar. It just light body, kind of a creaminess to it. I'm guessing Ecuadorian Connecticut.
Ecuadorian Connecticut shade binder is right up your alley, and I'm surprised I like this cigar as much as I do. It's a Cameroon binder. Cameroon, Africa, so this the tobacco sourced from there. Very kind of unique flavor profile. And then fillers Dominican and mostly Nicaraguan there. So the great thing about this cigar, we talked about it for those that follow the show. When you smoke the CAO FASA Soul, which is the medium, and the Noche is fuller bodied, the price point of this is the exact same. So
nice.
The CAO, as we call it, 3.0, and you guys, you're going through evolution of your brand. They've taken in it's almost an opposite, not opposite, but it's almost like a different direction where of the rising prices. General's a conglomerate. It's a huge company that owns now CAO. So they're able to do a lot of different things, and they try not to cannibalize their own portfolio. So they have now introduced these sub $10, where your average price point is now in that kind of $12 range. I'd give it. So they have come out aggressively with this part of their portfolio, the FASAs, and they're putting out solid cigars, in my opinion, for $8, which is almost unheard of at this point in this market. So I'm interested to see what hear what you have to say real quick, Nate. I don't want to take up too much time on this, but we still want to stay true to our listeners here on the cigar portion of it.
Yeah, I mean the creaminess of that Connecticut definitely I think is the driving flavor profile on the cigar, but then that earthiness, that kind of dry woodiness that I love sometimes about Cameroon tobacco, that earthiness, I do like that. And it does have just a little bit of spice to it. You don't get too many mild cigars that are going to have spice because they just ferment and age the strength out of the tobacco so much to just make a mild cigar. And that's why a lot of people, when they get into cigars and they start mild, when they finish it, they're like, it just tastes like burnt tobacco. There's nothing there. And, they end up not liking it, or they move on to something a little bit heavier. But this one's got enough different flavors going on to where it's not just one note all the way through. Like, yes, it's mild, but there's some flavor there that keeps you intrigued and, go back to it again.
Couldn't say it better myself. And it is, the retrohale does have a little bit of a punch.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys are familiar with retrohale, you know that term.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, where you pull it in and then you push it through your nose. For those that are listening that aren't familiar with it, it definitely adds a lot to that. Almost like when you kind of breathe in as you're taking a sip of whiskey or something like that. It kind of brings the nasal cavity into it as far as that flavor profile.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely check it out if you guys are into the mild to medium cigars. We can touch on that a little bit later probably. But, this is something that the most impressive, and I hate to say it, because it's on the heels of asking the price of the bottle, which I think is appropriate with yours. But on the heels of that is that the fact that in the bourbon industry and also in the cigar industry, there are some finds there that are your kind of everyday sippers or smokes, that it's like, you don't always have to spend the extra money for kind of your everyday sips, you know what I mean? But when you have the special occasions or you have the nightcaps or something. You want a little bit more than that, but like you said, this is a perfect. You're going to spend $8 or so if you're a kind of everyday smoker or you're on vacation or whatever with your coffee in the morning. Perfect.
Well, I mean, if you're gonna smoke, 4 or 5 cigars in a day,
Wow.
you don't necessarily want to be, yes, there are some people that can do it. I once knew a gentleman that used to smoke like 4 or 5 Padron 90ths a day. I mean, that's a $30 cigar.
Mhm.
Good for you. For the rest of us, if you're gonna smoke as much as Steve and I do in a work day at a cigar shop, like
At a certain tax bracket.
yeah, there's that. But no, like having an $8 option or something that's definitely below average in the industry, like that makes it something that you'll go back to more often, and it makes it easier to then light up that next one. It's like, oh, you know what? I only spent $8 on this cigar. I can go to a $12 cigar for my next one or something. Or
Yeah. What cigars do you guys like? To enjoy? Greg, it's been a while. I forget what you typically go to.
I for years my go-to was Arturo Fuentes, 858s, but I love the Maduro wrapper.
Yeah.
Probably the best cigar I've ever had in my life was actually a Cuban, and a lot of people, either hey or nay Cubans, but I had a Monte Cristo #2 Torpedo.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had anything close to that in the past. It's just phenomenal. So,
Very
yeah.
cool.
But I like Romeo and Julietta's. Churchill.
Uh-huh.
Give me that big cigar, and I'll puff on it half a day. So, as long as I got a great glass of bourbon with me.
There you go.
It always helps, right? How about you, Rick? What do you enjoy?
I like Rockies.
Yeah, Rocky
Patels,
for sure.
And then I also like the Patron box cut.
Yeah,
that's one of my favorites. Right, for me, that's a mile. It's not too heavy. It's not too light. It's just kind of that medium of the road smoke.
Yeah, Padron definitely, I feel like, put that box press cigar on the map.
Yeah.
That a lot of different companies have kind of chased after for sure. What else do we have on this? What do you think? What other questions do you have, Nate?
Oh, on the bottle.
Yeah.
I think I may have asked Greg some of those before we went live.
Well, for the rest of the class.
Rewind.
Oh, I don't remember what we were talking about.
It's because
I know we were talking about whiskey.
We were talking about whiskey. Where does it stack up to some of your favorites prior to being in the industry, Rick? Like you said, you enjoyed bourbon before. Now when you're creating this, are you trying to create something different? Are you trying to create something that you like? Because when we talk to a lot of like blenders, or whether it be in the bourbon world or the cigar world, there's usually 2 schools of thought, in my opinion. One, they're blending to their flavor profile, and the other is a little bit to that, but more to the consumer. Because again,
I'm gonna go with B.
More the B.
So yeah, we wanted to blend something that was approachable for a wide net of people, right? Because if we said, hey, if 3 of the 4 of us were like, we love the 120 plus proof high rye, well, you're going to get that much of a market, right?
Yeah.
Or if we said, hey, it's going to be 80 and it's going to be water, we're going to get this much.
Yeah.
So that's why we sell at 96. We wanted something that, and the word I use, I hear the word smooth a lot. I prefer the word approachable. We have a very approachable bourbon.
I like that.
Like I tell people at tastings all the time. They walk into Total Wine or they walk into this store, that store, and I don't drink bourbon. I say, this is the bourbon for people who don't drink bourbon. Try it. And they taste it. And I swear I wish I had a GoPro going for the hundreds of tastings I've done, because literally almost everyone, there's a smile. And it's like either, oh, that's not bad, because they have this preconceived idea that it's going to be something that's going to burn their face off. And they're like, oh, that's actually really good. I like that. I'm like, yeah, thank you. We think so. Huh.
So
now buy one.
You should, probably have them sign something, but for your social media, that would be an absolute. I don't know if that's even being done on like Instagram or TikTok, but at tastings, where you kind of have their reactions and then give it like out of a 10, You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, just have that with the, I don't drink bourbon very often. I don't like it, all that stuff. Well, try this. You do have a couple that are going to make that kind of like nasty face, but
Yeah.
to have those faces where they smile a little bit, that'd be a great little campaign there.
That's a great idea. We're actually going to talk to the team about that. But 8 out of 10
go.
will smile. 8 out of 10 will smile or be so pleasantly surprised. Like, oh, I can drink this.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, thank you.
Love it.
That's the point.
Well, that's the point, right? Yeah. Again.
No, I mean, I
like that.
Yeah, I've met some cigar makers where, they come out with a new blend, and, I've gotten to taste test some of those before going to market. And I remember one in particular, and this was over a decade ago. I got to taste a pre-release of a cigar, and while it was up my alley, being a very full body, very spicy cigar, I was like, yeah, like this is a really good cigar, but like maybe 1% of the cigar smokers out there are going to like this cigar.
Not a good business model.
Yeah, it's definitely not sustainable.
No.
And so they actually, backed it down in terms of the strength. It still came out as a very full body, spicy cigar, but it was, a fraction of what it had been previously. And, every company tries to, for cigar, you got something on the lighter side, you got a bunch of medium products, you got a couple of heavy products. You try and, have an offering to everybody. That was just one of those where they're like, yeah, we have cigars for everybody. Let's see just how absolutely crazy we can go on one end of the spectrum.
Too unique.
Yes.
All right. Before we go into this part of it, are either of you guys going to stick around for part 2? You got the links. I don't know what your schedule allows.
How long do you go on part 2 usually?
Yeah, no, you don't need us for anything, do you, Steve? Or
if you guys don't want to stick around, I was just going to kind of branch it off to the topic's going to be your next adventure, which is going to be a little more personal. And if you guys were sticking around, you don't have to if you don't want to. No offense taken. I know everyone's busy these days.
It's up to you, Rick.
I'd love to, but it's 8 o'clock and I got kids to get to bed and
Get it.
Okay.
a full day going still.
Absolutely understand. So at this point, we're going to go to you guys first. Then at the end of our part 1 here, we do the ratings, right? So I know you guys aren't smoking the cigar, but the way we do this is it's out of 10. So put you guys on the spot on the Four Branches bourbon. Now remind everyone that you've got someone on the screen here that's got over 4 decades of experience. You got someone else that is one of the co-creators of this bottle. So sorry to put you guys on the spot. And if you guys don't want to answer, that's fine.
No, hey, we're open books, man.
Yep. 10's the best. So what do you got? I'm going to go with Rick first.
As far as what I think my bourbon is.
Yep. Give me your out of 10 for the listeners out there. Or if you want us to start first and you guys go.
Oh, I think we have created a solid, I've had some different unique bourbons, but I'm going to say, I think, because I drink this a lot and it's my go-to, not because I have an endless supply of it, but because I really like it. We're a good 9. I'm a 9. I don't think I'm a 10 yet. We're getting there, but I'm a solid 9.
Yeah.
For the approachability, the drinkability, it can stand up at a cocktail at 96. So it still makes a great cocktail if you like to have a cocktail.
Oh, yeah.
It's great on a cube. It opens it up even more. But sipping it neat at room temperature, I think a 9 is I think we're a solid 9.
Greg, how about you?
So I'm not sure which rendition you guys are sampling or what you were sent.
They got 4.
They got number 4. Okay, so
they got number 4.
In my opinion, they did four batches before I got involved, and for my palate anyway, and everybody's palate's different. There was some variation between the 4 palettes, and again, that's part of why they brought me on to establish some consistency and high quality and sustainability going forward. I think batch 4 was in my opinion the best of the ones that I tasted previously, and I definitely would give it an 8.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I've tasted a lot of bourbon in my life.
Yeah,
I'll take an 8 from a master distiller.
Yeah, you've
I'm a little
created
biased.
a lot of bourbons.
that's true.
Yeah, one of the things I didn't say is there are times in my day job where I have sold bottles just by telling stories about Greg, about some of the projects he's been involved with.
For sure.
Sit there, oh, let me tell you about this guy I've talked to. You know, hand picks the oak planks that are turned into barrel staves and stuff like that. They're like, oh, that sounds cool. I'll go buy that.
Yeah, story of how he went and looked at the trees and the rings and the trees. Yeah.
Yep.
All true. All true.
Yep. So on the bottle itself, I'm an 8 on the bottle. It's smooth, it's balanced. I think a lot of the guys out there, like if you didn't tell them what the mash bill was, they'd probably guess that this had more corn in it than it does. I don't know necessarily how many people would be able to pick out that it's a 4 grain. I think as soft as this is, and some of that honey and vanilla that comes through, they might just think it was a wheated bourbon with like a 75% corn. They may not realize the amount of rye that is in this, but you know, everything is just there in balance. That sweetness, the spice, you're not firing up people's palates. So I think it's an 8. If this was maybe in that, say, $50 price point, I'd probably be like 8.5, 9. So for what it is, though, I think I'd give it an 8.
Fair.
Very fair.
For me, I'm pushing 8.5. I love everything about it. I mean, trying to look at when you release something, any product, right? I mean, all of it goes into together, right? It's ultimately is the juice in the bottle, right? That's what we're looking at here. But that's not why most people, in my opinion, are going to buy their first bottle of 4 Branches. You know, there is the story, there's the people behind it, there's the reasons for everything, the fact that it's 4 grain for 4 branches. You represent a lot of things. You're doing things like the challenge coins. But as you guys have said, it's that only gets that first bottle sold. So, I mean, the fact that it complements with a solid product within the bottle, that's going to be, for me, 8.5, 8.75, just because it is nice to see something in the industry that, in my opinion, the bourbon world has become, where it's all about chasing the elusive bottles. It's all about chasing the higher proofs. It's all about chasing the stuff that no one else can get. And if I did get it, I can sell it to you for this price. The fact that you guys are coming in with more of a fresh outlook, I think, with this, with a absolute, to steal a little bit of this, the honorable story and mission statement that you guys have, I think makes it absolutely a worthwhile product to try. And for those that do get their hands on it, I don't think it is available in Ohio quite yet.
Not. If it was, I could sell this all day long.
Yeah. But as you guys grow and expand and evolve, as you know, bringing Greg on as well, I think this is definitely a brand that you guys can keep an eye on, just for this simple fact that there's the truth in there, to your guys' point, the honor, as you guys say, and just this genuine interest to do stuff for not only people that have served or have family that have served, but I love the fact that you've opened it up to basically everyone that has a moment to remember, or, you know, that's one of the biggest things with the Memorial Day holiday that just happened on Monday. It's almost uncomfortable how much you have to remind people why they had the day off of work and what it absolutely means. And I feel like with the generations that are coming up now, it's up to us, the previous generations, to truly, and some of the news out, you know, the news channels that you have been on for this, is to really kind of push that kind of importance of why we have the Memorial Day holiday, why we hold some of the old stories. If you haven't served, if someone in your family has served, to really look at the history behind it, and the way you have tied all that into marketing. Marketing only gets you so far, but the fact that there is so much there that in this country especially, I think, has been lacking in the more recent decade, if you will. I truly think that this is a product that is going to hit the market based on what you said. It already has, but it's going to continue to hit the market very appropriately hard. And I think there's going to be a lot of good response to it because of all of that, because I think this country definitely needs a little bit of more of that history pushed into it based on the military side of things that allow us to sit here and enjoy a bottle together. So I appreciate you guys doing all
well
that.
said. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So with that, guys, we'll let you guys enjoy your evening. Thank you so much. For those out there, we'll talk a little bit more about the cigar and the pairing in part 2, but thank you so much, guys. Greg, it's great seeing you. Wonderful.
Likewise, guys. Thank you so much.
Let's have one last sip to remember, guys. As
Cheers.
always. Cheers.
Cheers.
Take care. Talk soon, guys.
All right, pal.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Absolutely. With that,
Cigar?
these guys are great.
Yes.
The cigar, Nate, go ahead with the cigar.
Solid 7. I mean, there's nothing crazy fancy about the cigar. And, it's that lighter smoke. And yes, I'm someone who typically likes the heavier cigars, but every now and then I do appreciate a milder smoke as long as it's done well. I think this one is. I do like that there's a little bit of spice to it. I love that they throw in that Cameroon in there.
The whole line has it. The whole fossil line has Cameroon.
Yes. I like the whole lineup. The Noche is my favorite. It's that Maduro, that broadleaf on it. But then I don't know. I actually might like this one more than the Soul.
Wow. Okay. Pairing.
Pairings going cigar to whiskey is the way to go on this one. Whiskey to cigar, that's drawn in that smoke and that just touch of spice kind of heats up the palate a little bit. So this one I actually like going whiskey to cigar, which I think tends to be
ready.
I'm gonna go 7 on the pairing. I think even though this is 96 proof and it's not overly heavy in terms of the flavor profile, it's not overly sweet or anything like Ray and I were talking about. I think this whiskey still kind of overpowers this cigar a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. We didn't know what we were going to get into here, but I don't think it's too much. Sean, if you want to click Sean on.
Thanks, Nate. Appreciate you doing that for me. I think for the whiskey, I think I'd give an 8.5. It's pretty good. It's on the sweeter side for me. Really, it's like on the nose when I first smelled it, it smelled like something like there's almost like a refreshing. It's like a nice summer evening, like just got done working in the yard. Yeah. It's relaxing, it's almost like kind of therapeutic in a way to me. But on the finish, what I've noticed the most is it sits there for a long time.
Yeah.
It'll hang there for a bit, which is nice because when you want to pair it with a cigar, you don't have to keep sipping it. You can just keep smoking. You still have it on the palate. So for the cigar, though, I would say I'm about an 8 with that. Like you said, what Nate said hit the nail on the head in terms of there's more to it than I thought there would be. Usually when I smoke a mild, you don't get much, and there is a little bit of spice.
Yeah.
For me, though, with the pairing, I'm going to go, I'd probably give it an 8.5, but if I were to go to for me, the drink and the smoke, I'm giving it a 9. There's something about that flavor that when you retrohale after you take a sip, holy shit, man, it's almost like honeycomb cereal or something to me. It's
honeycomb cereal.
It's like
nice.
It's good. I kept going, holy shit.
Well, I was talking about the honey. Steve talked about that breadiness. So you put those two together.
Yeah.
There's your honeycomb.
It's good stuff, though.
So cigar for me, the one thing I like about the fob, I don't want to say that I'm a huge fanboy of the Fasa line, but I gotta be honest, it's the price point blows me away on the construction of this. Plenty of smoke. I felt like I was smoking you out a little bit during the first part because you get a lot of smoke, a lot of flavor, and yet it doesn't burn super quick. It's got this nice Overall, just smoking experience is fantastic. 8.5 on the cigar, I think, for what it is.
Yeah.
My flavor profile, I'm 8 or slightly under, just because it's good, but it's not like my go-to. You know what I mean?
Well, it's what's funny is Sunday at the Tinder Box, I was smoking a cigar. It was another CAO. Comes in around, in Ohio, comes in around $15. It's heavier, fuller body, richer, and I've had that cigar multiple times. I have not had one that didn't have a construction issue. This cigar comes in at $8 and burned absolutely beautifully. So it's like, this is one of those where you can't necessarily judge the book, on the price, because this $8 cigar, even though it's light, I mean, the Noche, the Noche, that broadleaf still coming in that $8-9 price point, heavier broadleaf. I will smoke that over that other $15 CAO.
Draw. I didn't have draw issues, but I have not had aim. I still think this CAO 3.0. I've said it before when we've done the other FASAs, and it's fantastic. Pairing for me, I think is actually not bad at all. I think it's actually really good. 8.5 on the pairing on this one as well. I do think this has gone well the other both ways, cigar to whiskey, whiskey to cigar, but it's just very pleasant. I think with Rick and Greg being on here, it's interesting to have a budget smoke, and then with this bottle being in that $75 price point, I didn't know what to expect when you asked that question of them, Nate.
I thought they were going to come in and say somewhere in that 50 to 60.
Yeah,
honestly, that's because to me,
slightly higher than I expected.
It's higher than what I was expecting.
Not out of the question.
Well, because there's other products that I have on the shelf that are $75 that are very close to this proof, but completely different flavor profile. More of those traditional bourbon notes, the caramel, the oak, the spice, a little bit richer. So this one, with it being as light as I thought it was, and those lighter notes, I was expecting more of that $50 price point, because nowadays that's where we kind of see a lot of newer brands come in at, just getting out, especially when they're sourcing. We see them come in starting out that $50 price point. So I thought this one was just a touch high, but it's not like they're reaching. I don't think they're necessarily pricing themselves out, because I get a lot of customers into the store that they're looking for a recommendation, and I ask them the price point. And yes, I get some of those. They're looking for something under $40, but I get a lot of customers that they're looking 50 to 100, 75 to 100, or even higher. So, there definitely is a market for this. You just have to make sure you're in the right market, and that there's people there that can, especially something new, you got to put it in people's faces.
What backs it up, I'll say this as we round up part one here. The big thing that I think backs it up for this company is some of the names that they have been able to throw out there who they're working with, right? You have the Steve Nallys, now you have the Greg Snyders, you have these people behind it that at first glance, challenge coins, all of this like nice literature, the kind of flashier things. This isn't a local distillery. This is someone that's trying to make it on a national/international stage. And so it's like, okay, yeah, I get the if you will, the gimmicky side of the four branches of the military, but then you go behind the scenes of who they're working with and how they did this with Bardstown now, and now you have some new evolution like I talked about. They've spent money on this, and they've spent time on this, and they're not trying to come out with a budget brand, which is the other aspect of another approach that you can do with it. So I am really interested to see where Four Branches Bourbon grows to, because I think it shows the infancy stage of what they're doing. With them not being on here, who knows if they'll listen back to it, but I will say, I think I would say to them in a similar regard that, this is the infancy stage, and they're really growing off of it, but they didn't mess around going into it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? From a level of seriousness and commitment to it, but also like the fact that they are bringing in some of the heavy hitters to be able to learn from it. I did like the fact that Rick said that.
Yeah. And then, like on the card, this ties into the price on the card that came with this bottle. There's 3 different organizations on the bottom of this card where part of the proceeds go to
Which you didn't bring up.
those organizations. So, that's another thing where that price comes in. Yes, maybe this is a $50 bottle, and then that additional $25, like that's going towards these other 3 groups, and that's why it's priced.
I doubt it's that high, but it's a good percentage, I'm sure. So, like, that would be something I'm surprised they didn't bring it up. That being said, though, shit. For those listening live, we're going to end this part of the broadcast. We're going to start up part 2. So refresh your Facebook, YouTube, whatever it might be, and we'll be back momentarily. Cheers. Happy Whiskey Wednesday. And cheers to 4 Branches Bourbon. Have a great week.